Welcome back to Fall Festival, everyone. I hope that you've been having the best time. And today, my segment is all about bringing out the artsiness in your quilting self. And I want to teach you how to do an applique and take a picture of whatever you want, change the values of it, and then make something out of it. This is my best friend's dog. Her name's Lily. She's the cutest. I didn't like dogs until I met Lily. I know, crazy, right? But Lily, amazing. And I wanted to turn Lily into an applique to put on a quilt for her. And I want to show you how I did it.
The first thing you're going to do is remove the background of your picture. If you Google background remover, this website pops up and I love it. It is so easy to use. All you do is upload your picture, and if they miss anything, like in this photo, they missed the blanket, they have a little tool where you just brush over what you want to remove and then it gets rid of it for you. And to edit this photo, I am using the GNU image manipulation program. It is free and easy to use, so that's why I'm choosing it over other programs. But if you know how to do this on other programs, then you don't even need this. First, you are going to click on the tab that says Colors, then click Saturation, and you're going to turn the saturation all the way down on your photo. This is going to turn your photo black and white. Then you're going to go back to that Colored tab and click Adjust Brightness and Contrast. And you want to adjust your contrast to be greater because a high contrast photo does better when you're turning it into different values for applique. Lastly, you're going to go back to the Color tab and click Polarize. And you're going to adjust the polarize levels to be what you want it to be. So the number just means how many values there are. I chose to do 5 values, and then I could choose 5 different fabrics to work with. Then I have my photo absolutely perfect, and I'm going to print it off as a poster. And so I just used a website online. You could just Google, make a poster, and then print it off and tape it together, or you can pay for your local print shop to print it off as a poster.
So I turned her picture and I polarized it and turned it into 5 different values. Then I went to my local quilt shop, shout out Sotopia, and I got different fabrics that match those values. So I got this like burgundy merlot shade for the dark value, got this orange for the next value up. Then I have this burnt orangish, more towards the yellow side, next value up. And then for our lighter shades, I wanted to go for something really fun. And so this one has more, it's a lower volume fabric that has little flowers on it. It's so cute. And then the white is same thing, lower volume, and it's white on white. Love it. If you're gonna do some applique like this, lower volume fabrics work better because your main focus is not necessarily the fabric, but it's the big picture. And so they blend really well. What we're going to do is I printed out this picture of Lily. I taped her together. And what I did is I took some scissors, and for each value and each section of Lily, I cut out around each value. And I wasn't perfect. Like up here, you see there's a lot of little pieces. And so I just cut out random shapes that are similar to the size of those pieces. But I'm going to show you down here on this last little part. So I'm going to just cut out around this, and this is the middle value. This one's going to be our burnt orangish. And I'm just doing a general cut. It doesn't have to be perfect, that's okay. Then after you cut it out, you're going to get your fabric, and I put Wonder Under on the back. And I'm going to put a piece I cut out upside down, and I'm just tracing around the shape. You could use magnets or weights or whatever you want to hold down your paper, but I am just going for it. Then you're going to cut around what you just traced. When making this, I put together like 6 different versions of Lily and cut them out a million different ways to get all of these little pieces. If I were you, I would start with the big pieces. So in the back, it's mainly the darker shade and then the next darker one, slightly lighter. So you're gonna cut out all the big pieces first and then layer on the little pieces at the end. So now that I have this piece cut out, I'm going to take this same piece, and there is a lighter value in the middle, and so I'm gonna do the same thing again, where I'm just gonna cut it out. The thing about doing a project like this is you just need a lot of patience. Creating Lily took 3 full days of work, and so just know that it is gonna take a hot minute. So now my next value up is gonna be this fun yellow color with the little flowers. Now that I've made our little pieces, we're gonna add them to Lily, and you wanna make sure to take off the back. And with Wonder Under, it adheres with steam, and so we're gonna make sure to steam it nice. You're gonna place it where you want, steam it. It's gonna be so good. While I'm here, I'm just gonna steam a couple of the other pieces. And then I just have a couple other little tiny pieces that I want to add. And if you look at my Lily right here, these are just all the little guys. And so let's got this one is gonna go right here. So I'm gonna put it there, do a quick steam. Now we've got Lily finished, and she's so cute. I'm obsessed with all of the little details on her. This is the quilt top I made for Lily. The reason I went with a blue is because I wanted there to be a high contrast between Lily and the background, and I also wanted it to be super fun. So what I'm gonna do is I purposely made it so there's this bottom bit, because when your eye looks at a quilt, it wants a place to rest. So this piece right here is your resting spot, and then you also have this white to break up the chaos of up here versus the calm of down here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put Lily somewhere in the rule of thirds spot. So if you know art at all, when you look at a painting or something, you want to think of it, or when you make a quilt even, you want to think of it in thirds. So thirds this way and thirds this way. And I am wanting Lily to be right here, somewhere in this thirds area. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it over to my iron, and we're just gonna steam Lily down so she is perfect. Okay, now that we have Lily ironed on to our quilt top, we're gonna take her over to our 19X Elite, and we're gonna quilt her, and I'm gonna show you how to do some fun artsy style quilting and kind of plan out what you're gonna do when you have so much space. I've put Lily on my frame, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get ready to quilt. What we've gotta do is every time I start a new project on my long arm, I want a brand new needle, especially when I'm doing something that has taken me forever and I am just so invested in this piece. I want it to turn out the best. So I am gonna change the needle, and I'm putting a size 16 needle on it. You see on our needle, there is a little bump. I call it the little belly. You want the belly facing forward. And if you do not know if your needle is perfectly straight, our machines have a magnet. If the magnet is facing perfectly forward, then my needle is aligned. If you do not have a magnet at home, or if you lose them because they're so itty bitty, you can put a colored piece of paper behind the eye of the needle, and if you can see straight through the needle, straight through the eye of the needle, then your needle is on straight. And this one looks perfect. We're just gonna tighten it so it doesn't fall out, just a hair. Okay, and we already went ahead and changed our foot, and I decided to use the open-toed foot so that I can see a lot of my quilting, especially when I get down to Lily, because there are so many little pieces. I need to be able to see exactly where I am quilting so that I can outline them perfectly. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check the hopping foot height. If you do not have a hopping foot height gauge, what I recommend is using a thicker piece of cardstock. So I'm just gonna take my machine over to the side. I wanna make sure my needle is in the down position, and I'm going to put my hopping foot height gauge under my needle, and then tighten it, make sure it can move around. We're good. Okay. Now we have a new needle and our hopping foot height is correct. Now all we have to do is pick some thread, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite parts. I have a couple different options, and I want you at home to tell me which one you think is best. So here is that ice blue, and here is, this one is called Candy Floss, and this is more of a blue. I'm thinking of going with the Candy Floss. I just like the way it meshes in really well with the white and the blue, and I think it will look really good, especially on the borders. One of my favorite features about the 19X Elite is this thread guide, and I know not all machines have a thread guide, and it just makes it easy so that every time I don't have to go look in the manual, I won't forget, and I just follow the numbers. For my bobbin, I am just going to use all the same color. I have an orange as my back, but the bobbin color, I'm just using a white. Okay, the last thing we are going to do before we start quilting it is we need to baste it. Another one of my favorite features on the machine is in the toolbox. There are so many tools to use, and specifically the measurement tool. I was over at one of our ambassadors' house filming some stuff, and she was showing me how she uses the measurement tool. Shout out to Lacey Messerly. And I go, genius, Lacey, you're a genius. So I'm gonna click the measurement tool, and right where it's the up and down bar, that shows how far the machine is up and down, back and forward. You're gonna put your needle at the corner of your quilt, and this says 0.5, we're gonna say like 0.55 inches, right? A little over 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna go to the middle of my quilt, and I'm gonna find around 1/2 inch, and it looks like the top of my quilt is not all the way there yet. Come on, where is it? Where is it? There we go. So I'm gonna keep moving it down just a hair, and then I'm gonna go over here. Again, wanna make sure the edge is at 0.55. And then I'm just gonna make sure to move everything down with it to make sure it is all lined up. And it looks like we are good to go. Another way you can get your top straight is if you have channel locks on the back of your machine, channel lock right at the top, sew a basting stitch across the top, and then line up your quilt to that line. I'm gonna start from the middle and go out. When I do a basting stitch, this is my favorite time to check the tension, because when I'm basting, do I really care about the tension? No, not necessarily. Move it up, needle up and down, and then let's go ahead and start stitching. I want a very low SPI for this. You could also use the basting mode on our machine. They're awesome. If you want your long armor to love you, or if you are your own long armor and you want to love yourself even more than you do now, one thing that you want to do is you want to sew, some people call it like a victory lap or something or another, but you basically want to sew, you can see it over here, 1/8 of an inch all the way around your quilt. And that will lock in all the seams, especially on a quilt like this where I have so many seams. We just need that to work. So I'm gonna baste the top. What I like to do is baste the top first. And then I like to go down and baste the sides. Okay, now that it is basted, I'm going to tighten my back, and I just want to make sure everything is bouncy and nice. I'm going to finish basting the sides using that basting stitch, and later on today I'm going to show you how to quilt Lily, and I'm so excited to show you the different aspects and how we're going to turn this quilt, even though it's already great, and enhance it using some awesome free motion quilting. Are we ready to start quilting? In the last section, we learned how to take a picture and turn it into an applique piece, and we got our machine ready for quilting. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out how to quilt something like this. One fun thing that I made and that I learned, I don't even remember who I saw do this, but I thought it was genius, is I went to Home Depot and I got a glass, like a piece of glass that I think this one is like 20 by, I don't know, like 18 by 26 or something, 20 by 16. Got a glass sheet, and what I can, and I covered it in tape. It's called art tape. You can get it at Hobby Lobby or at Michael's, and it's thinner than duct tape. And I just put it around the sides. And now we have this beautiful thing to test out some quilting designs. So we could go through and add some straight lines throughout this to quilt it. In the comments, I want you to put what you would do, because as a quilter, we all have our certain styles, and I know that you guys will probably have better ideas than me. Here's the thing, this is a modern quilt, yes, but do I want it necessarily like the modern quilting style? Not necessarily. I'm a part of the Salt Lake Modern Quilt Guild, and I was talking to James and Vanessa one night, and I was like, I need like advice on how to quilt it. And James had a good idea of, like, from Lily to do random squiggles, kind of like there's like rays bouncing off of her. And I thought it would be fun within those squiggles to do maybe some ribbons. Within the squiggles too, we could do some fun little pebbling. That would be really cute. Another one of my go-tos is doing some form of like meandering and adding things into it. Also, one of our ambassadors who taught the segment earlier, Amy, I'm so inspired by her quilting all of the time. She is so good at doing main designs in different places and then adding some fun free motion around it to really enhance the quilting. She did one quilt on Morgan Wallen. The quilting was incredible. Shout out Quito Quilts in Ecuador. We could do something like Amy does, and maybe I'll add a dog bone for Lily. Maybe we'll add a bowl of some sort. Maybe we'll do a little tennis ball somewhere. We could do a collar of some sort, and it say Lily. That would be kind of fun. And then all around it, we could do some pebbling. We could do a mixture of meandering. As I was adventuring, I was thinking, I think that doing different dog items would be too much. And I think that would really take away from Lily, which really is the main focus of this quilt. So what I decided to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and do random dog bones in various shapes and sizes so that it doesn't draw away from Lily. And when you're doing a quilt like this, and you're doing the quilting aspect, you want to figure out what your focus is. So I'm going to take some inspiration from Amy, especially when it comes to the background, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw on some dog bones. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but that's okay. As long as I can see it for the most part, that's all that matters. And with the dog bones, I think I'm going to go around them several times to give them a little bit more definition, because I think that would be really fun. I want them different sizes, different shapes. We just want to be inspired by them. Maybe one is going to be this way, a little bit bigger, this way. We're going to go from there. Now this is the scary part, is possibly ruining your quilt, but don't worry, you won't ruin it. Before I start, I'm going to set the edge warning on my machine. So one nice thing about the 19 is that there is an edge warning system, and so I'm going to set it for a 1/2 inch. So I set it top left, set. I'm gonna move it down to the bottom right. I'm gonna go right here, set. And then I have the edge warning on so that it's 1/2 inch. And so once I get all close to 1/2 inch around the perimeter of my quilting area, it will start beeping at me. And that is really nice, especially when I'm quilting down here, because it's kind of hard to see where the throat of your machine stops, especially when you're into it, right? When you're deep into your quilting mode. So I'm gonna start right here in the corner because I think I'm gonna go back on the border and do something a little bit different. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use cruise mode. And with cruise mode, all that means, so on this machine there are 4 different modes. There are manual, basting, cruise, and precise. If you are a new quilter, honestly, I recommend starting with manual mode because that is how you learn how your machine works and how fast you need to move it. And if you are really good at manual mode, then only using the other modes will only enhance your quilting. So I'm gonna use cruise, and I want the needle not jogging super fast, so I'm gonna do it at 10%, and I want 11 SPI. I'm also gonna adjust my handles to make it better for me to quilt. I just wanna make sure I like them a little bit up like this. And so I'm just adjusting where I want them and pull them out just a little bit. And now I'm gonna start with a little bit of meandering to get me to my spot. Before I keep going, I'm just gonna double check my tension. The top looks great. The bottom looks great. I'm gonna do my first little dog bone. I'm gonna go ahead and quilt all of the checkerboard, and then we're gonna hop to Lily. And now the scary part is we're gonna quilt Lily. I'm gonna use my board again. And my board is basically as big as my quilting area. And so this tells me what I can quilt. One of my friends from the Quilt Guild was saying to kind of trace around each color. I also just feel like there are so many little pieces that I want to figure out how to enhance her as well. And this is when the tricky part comes. I noticed that Lily's ears are very furry, and I kind of follow the texture. I can kind of go up and add some little fur spots in. And here's really the fun part where I can take this picture and I can also play with the values in it as well when adding the texture. So here, got fur coming up with the lighter value right here. Then there's gonna be a little bit more fur right here to kind of framing her face. I think I'm liking the way this is going. I'm gonna kind of follow the colors, but maybe it'll be a little switched up depending on what we do. With the new finesse thread, we have more colors to choose from, which is great. So I'm gonna start with this Merlot color to match my darkest value. And this is where you just have to go for it, Kate. It's very scary. It is very, very, very scary, but you just have to go for it, okay? I'm stopping periodically just to make sure I like what's going on. I'm not necessarily worried about staying in my space because the quilting is just gonna enhance that a little bit further. What I'm doing now is I'm just gonna go around, and in this quiltable area, I'm just gonna quilt all of the Merlot pieces. So that I can get the rest of this darker red quilted, I'm gonna go ahead and roll up the quilt. Because the nose isn't super fuzzy, I'm just gonna go around and basically go around it. And in Lily's nose, you can kind of see it right there. Yeah. In Lily's nose, there's some little pebbling texture. So I'm gonna not do all pebbles, but kind of hint at them in certain spots. I've quilted Lily, and no, you cannot see her yet. We are not done quilting this quilt. What we're gonna do next is we gotta do the bottom, and I wanna remind you that I put these two pieces here just so that our eye has something to rest at, because this quilt is so busy and bright and colorful that it's a lot to look at. So I want my eye to rest, and I want my eye to rest when looking at the quilting of this section. And if I quilted this even just like all over something, I feel like that isn't enough rest for what my eye is wanting. And so what I'm gonna do first is, for this white part, is I'm gonna use one of my rulers, and the True Cut rulers are great, especially this little guy, because you can use them on your machine because of the lip. I'm not gonna switch to the ruler foot, but I'm just gonna stick with this open toe foot and hope for the best, okay? And it seems to be working great. I don't have a ruler base on, so I'm gonna go slower than I normally would if I did have the ruler base on. For the stripe side, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use my white thread, and then I'm just gonna follow along the stripes in this pattern, in the fabric pattern. And because the stripes are wonky, I'm just gonna do little wiggly lines to match that. As I go, I'm gonna make sure that when I get to the edge to either follow along some line I already stitched, or do a little stitch in the ditch, so that I don't have to keep bringing my bobbin up and tying off my threads. I have finished quilting everything, and I put on the binding, and I'm so excited to show you the finished product. Are you ready? Da, 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 da. Here is Lily, and I absolutely love how she turned out. I'm gonna just flip it to the back really fast. Looking at the quilting on the back, it is insane. You can see the detail of the quilting, and it looks so good. Going around the dog bones several times really makes them pop. And the amount of quilting that was done in Lily, you can see everything in the back. And I love the straight lines on the bottom that really just add something different to look at and add a place for your eye to rest when it comes to the quilting. I added some little circles to the top of her nose. I didn't do the whole thing because I thought that would really just like be too much, but just a little bit added the texture I needed it to be. With the eyes, I put some white fabric there, but it didn't pop as much as I wanted. So I took the white thread and I just went a million times over right where the whites of the eye was, just to make sure that that part pops. One thing I loved on the muzzle is I did a bunch of up and down zigzaggy texture to show how much fur she had right there. And there are certain parts where I overlapped the different colors to show more dimension. When you look at just Lily on her own, there is not a whole lot of texture when it comes to just the raw applique, right? And that's where it's your job as a quilter to add the different texture. And I am so happy that you joined us today for Fall Festival.